Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Patriots Leftovers, where myself, Alex Barth, and Evan Lazar, we go through our leftover thoughts from the Patriots' most recent game, kind of everything that's been clunking around inside our heads since we left Gillette Sunday night. So this week's edition, obviously, we're going to cover the Patriots and the Cowboys. It is brought to you by betonline.ag. Visit their website and use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% welcome bonus. So I guess we'll just start because we don't really have an agenda for this one. I know we normally do the compliment sandwich. I guess we could do that again. Let's do it again. Let's go with the compliment sandwich. Evan, let's give me something good. Give me a positive takeaway from the Patriots and Cowboys.
Sure. So there are a bunch on offense that I think we'll get to at some point, but I wanted to start here.
Let's close the sandwich with the offense.
Yeah, so I wanted to start here. Sometimes when you have a performance like Stephon Gilmore did on Sunday, you go back and you watch the tape and you see a whole lot of missed opportunities for the other team, right? Routes where Amari Cooper got open that Dak didn't find him, or just kind of a bunch of events happened.
You're trying to see if it was too good to be true.
It was not. That was as thoroughly dominated as I've seen a bona fide Pro Bowl wide receiver by a corner in the NFL in a lot. That's as good as it gets when you go up against a guy that can really play like Amari, right? You would think that at some point in time in a game like that, against a receiver like that there would be some sort of breakdown, right? There would be one play where you just lose him, or he runs a great route and he just makes a great individual play. Now, a couple got called back because of flags, and one he almost caught, obviously, and it was reviewed and overturned. But really, the one catch that he had that would have gone for 15 yards, it was the only time he was close to catching a ball. The only time he was close. And Stephon Gilmore locked his butt up for 4 straight quarters, better than I have maybe seen any cornerback performance in the NFL this year. That was as good as advertised, and that was not a situation where you go back and watch the film and see something different.
So here's what I was thinking about today, then. Let me ask you this. Are we at the point, are we past the point where we can start comparing this season of Stephon Gilmore to the year Darrelle Revis was here in 2014?
Yeah, you know what the crazy thing is that from a pass breakup standpoint, he was actually better last year, right? Like, he was better when the ball was actually thrown his way last year. He was better at playing the ball. He was more in position to play the football. I think that this year there were a few games. I wouldn't call that he took it off, because I don't think that he does that. But there were a few games where he was a little bit down. Terry McLaurin kind of got him a few times in that Washington game, where I don't think that normally that would have happened last year. I think that he was a little bit more in his zone. But the high level, the peaks, right? Going against Amari Cooper, going against the kind of the studs of the NFL that he has gone up against, Juju, he has been as dominant as any cornerback that I have seen play the game, and that includes 2014 Revis. And we were a little bit young to really break down Ty Law, but even Ty Law from what I can remember. But overall, I mean, this is when he is in a primetime slot against the other bona fide stud like Amari. It's going to happen again this week against DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
He is the best
guy who he's had his number the last couple of times they've met.
Yeah, he's the best cornerback on the planet, and I don't know if number 2 is all that close right now. The technique, the anticipation, the film study, the practice habits, the works. He's an incredible player.
Well, this is a little hyperbole, shocker. Number 2, it might be kind of far behind, but he might not be that far geographically. Like Jonathan Jones is playing out of this world. I was talking to somebody about the game the other day, and they asked me, why doesn't Jonathan Jones get more credit for the way he's played? And he probably is getting undercredited. It's tough when Stephon Gilmore is doing what he's doing to not talk about him. But Jonathan Jones has played another level too. I thought he had a great game on Sunday. This is one of the few times this year where the Patriots have faced not just a top flight wide receiver, because they've had those matchups, but I'm trying to think of a game where they faced as much wide receiver depth, where they had to cover everybody in the formation.
They can run the ball. They can throw it. It's a complete offense in Dallas. They have all the pieces.
They held them to 9 points.
Yeah.
Back to Stephon Gilmore, though. I'm getting a little more abstract here. But, we got Chase Young chasing the Heisman in college football as a defensive player. You look at what Lamar is doing. You look at what Dak is doing. But if you really highlight the V in MVP, that valuable, and you look at what Stephon Gilmore has meant for the Patriots defense, and they'll tell you, Devin McCourty said it after the game, it's a team effort, but everything they are able to do starts with knowing Stephon Gilmore is taking his assignment out of the game. If you want to talk about pure value to a winning effort, the Patriots have the best record in the league. They have the best record in the league because of the way their defense is played. Their defense is played the way it has played because of, for more so than anybody else, what Stephon Gilmore has done this season. And I'm not saying he will, but if you look at it at face value, Stephon Gilmore should 100% be in the MVP conversation this season, at least through 12 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to win it, obviously. But
an offensive player will never win you would have to put up such absurd numbers for a defensive player to win the MVP in the NFL. And it's not going to be a corner because corners don't put up numbers. It would have to be a guy getting 25, 30 sacks, something like that. But again, just looking at it on face value, what the award is, Gilmore, you could make an argument that Stephon Gilmore is the most valuable player to his team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of value, I think the biggest problem with the MVP, and this is more of an abstract MVP conversation, but I think the biggest problem with the MVP is that the quarterback position is inherently more valuable than any other position on the field, right? It's impossible for a player to be more valuable than the most valuable quarterback.
You look at Zeke in that offensive line and Amari Cooper. Is Dak Prescott more valuable to the Cowboys this season than Stephon Gilmore? Take the 16th out of 32 quarterbacks, put him on the Cowboys.
Jackson is significantly more valuable in terms of just what we can produce in terms of numbers, right? And what we can see and quantify. It's just because of the nature of the position. I think Gilmore should, if he's not the defensive player of the year, he should definitely have a strong chance at winning that award. But I think the biggest problem that he's going to run into is that he's not a big interceptions guy. I know he had one on Sunday, but he's not going to go for 10 picks this year, right? And he's not going to go for the same amount of pass breakups that he did last year when he led the league in the stat. So they're really going to have voters watch the games, right? And really,
it's an eye test thing,
right? And really understand schematically what it is that Gilmore is bringing to the table by shutting down the number one receiver with very little help, and what that allows the other 10 guys to do on the field. It's like, when they do Hall of Fame voting and somebody makes a pitch for a player and a coach like Belichick will write in and say good things about Ty Law or Richard Seymour, they're going to need somebody to lobby and say, you have to watch the coach's film and you have to understand the scheme and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish with all the man coverage that they play, and how key it is that Gilmore can go and he can take Odell Beckham on an island. He can take Amari Cooper on an island. He can take Juju. He can take DeAndre Hopkins next week and be able to just either erase them completely like he did with Cooper, or make sure that they don't have a big impact on the game like he did with Odell and Juju, where they're not deciding the outcome of the game. And that, I think, is going to be difficult for voters to see. That's why guys like Aaron Donald and those types of guys always win Defensive Player of the Year, because they have the counting stats to back it up, right? We can say Aaron Donald had X amount of sacks and X amount of quarterback pressures and this many tackles for loss and this many forced fumbles, and they can pad those stats. Gilmore's not going to have the stats. He's going to have the tape.
I mean, the stats, I think, for him, if you're presenting the stats, is 0 catches for Amari Cooper. I think, if I'm in that room and I'm trying to make that case, and I know it's not how the MVP works, it's voting, but if I'm trying to make that case, I'm not presenting his stats. I'm presenting the stats of the guys he's covered. So we got to talk about the offense, though.
Yeah,
growth. It's still not there, but I think we saw some growth with Isaiah Wynn back. But Evan, why'd they only score 13 points?
Well, I think it's a couple of different things. I think in some stretches of this game, there were instances certainly where it was give Edelman extra attention and force everybody else to beat you, and those other guys couldn't beat them, right? There was a little bit of that going on. I think that's simplifying it a lot when people say stuff like that, but there was a lot of double Edelman, bracket Edelman, give the corner some post-safety help or inside help against Edelman, and then make N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers and James White beat you one-on-one in coverage.
There were a couple of third downs I remember where They spread it out, like third and medium, and they spread it out, and used to them picking it up, and it was just coverage sacks. Like Brady had the time. He just had nowhere to go with the ball.
Yeah, he was only pressured on 28% of his dropbacks, which is the lowest that the Patriots have had since week 6. So Isaiah Wynn came in. He basically fixed the pass protection all on his own. The running game, there was some highlights and then there were some lowlights with the running game. Their rush success was not very good. It was still around the 37% marker, which is not good. But they did have 5 rushes of 10 or more yards, which was a season high. So it's boom or bust with the running game a lot of the time. So that didn't help either. But when you really kind of break it down, they had 6 drops, right? Which was killer drops. Like these were drops happening in situations where they were going to make big plays out of those drops, right? You had Edelman.
I would guess, I don't know if you have the number in front of you. I would guess at least half of those were on third down.
Yeah, they're key spots, and they're also taking big plays off the board. You know, the Edelman crosser, I think, was a big one where he reached up, and whether it was because of his injury or because of the rain or whatever, he just couldn't get his hands high enough to really corral the ball in. Then the N'Keal Harry one down the sideline, which was a tough catch. Byron Jones had good coverage, but that one goes right through his hands. That's another explosive play. That's another 20-plus yard play that goes out the door because that play doesn't get made. So they were forced into situations where they had to kick some field goals that they probably didn't want to have to kick, and some of them didn't go in, obviously, too. So that, shrinks the margin a little bit more as well. But I think if this game, in a lot of ways, if this game wasn't played in a monsoon, then they definitely put more than 13 points up. But the problem is that the inclement weather is not going anywhere here in New England, as we know.
But Evan, it only impacted the Cowboys. Patriots didn't play. It actually stopped raining, believe it or not, when the Patriots were on the field. It was actually 60 and sunny when Tom Brady took the field. And then when he left, it was rains of biblical proportions. The field even flooded because the Patriots blocked the drainage system, which caused the Dallas Cowboys lineman to trip, which the officials saw as to slip, which the officials saw as tripping, and those flags got thrown and yada, yada, yada. All right.
How many for real passing yards do you think Tom Brady would have had without the drops?
I'm going to be conservative, but I'm going to say around 50 probably. It's tough because some of them, the early Jacoby Myers one, there were at least 10 yards after the catch available to him, and we saw what he can do after the catch. That one play where he hit the juke and stiff arm combo, that was pretty nice. So I'm gonna go conservative and say 50. It's probably more.
So he threw for 190. I calculated it just as if they just caught the ball and went right down there, right? Because you can't
the actual number. Okay.
Oh, I calculated it. You can't actually predict yards after catch, right? I mean, it's impossible. But they left 65 yards on the field of just plain air yards on the field with this 6 drops. So that brings Brady up to 255 yards on the game.
Does that include the Jacoby Myers jet peak play?
Yes, it does. Okay.
I'm not faulting him for that one. I mean, that was just a beautiful hit.
That was really a bang play. When you really go frame by frame with it, he was dropping it before he caught it. But no, when safety's coming over, that it's an impact on the play for sure, even if it was coming out before he caught it.
And I mean, sure, 65, but then, like I mentioned, a bunch of them were on third down. He keeps throwing the ball. They pick up the first downs, yada, yada, yada.
The big difference, it's a difference between 60% completions and 255 yards passing than 42% completions and 190. I mean, that's
and one sounds like the Tom Brady we know. The other sounds like Joe Flacco.
Right.
So
46% completions. I can't do math. It's hard.
Well, they're indoors Sunday, so we'll see. Here's what I liked from the offense on Sunday, and I said this after the game, but I want to expand on it. I think that Isaiah Wynn comes back, they start running the ball, and they have that built-in advantage in the cold weather. They're going to be able to run the ball late in the year. Specifically, they were able to run the ball off tackle. I think part of the problem with Sony Michel is that he's had to run out of his comfort zone, and you want to see him expand his game, and that's another conversation for another time. But they can run the ball where he wants to run it. Off tackle, specifically off that left side behind Isaiah Wynn, the difference between 3 and 4 yards a carry is massive. It doesn't sound like a lot. You run for 3 yards a carry 3 times, it's 4th and 1, you're punting. You run for 4 yards a carry, every carry, you're in the end zone, no problem. So that's sort of more abstract, but that's part of the case. They're throwing the ball well. They got the pass protection going. You see what Jacoby Myers can be. You see what N'Keal Harry can be. N'Keal Harry wasn't drafted to be a 100-catch, 1,200-yard receiver. He was drafted to go into the red zone, go one-on-one with a corner who he is bigger than, and make the body play to get the football like he did on that touchdown catch. That is the play he is here for. He is here to be elite at that, to be a red zone weapon. We saw him do that. We saw Jacoby Myers be what he can be. Edelman is Julian Edelman. So when you put the running game into it, when you get Dorsett and Dorsett and Sanu back, and N'Keal Harry can be that red zone threat, and Jacoby Myers can be that secondary weapon, and you're not targeting him 9 times. There's room for the offense to grow there. Jacoby Myers, 9 targets. That's the most time Tom Brady's targeted a rookie since 2016. Malcolm Mitchell, before that, it was only 1 game in 2016. You have to go back 6 years to 2013 when Aaron Dobson had 3 9+ targets in a season. Defensively, they were locked down again. So here's the big point I'm trying to make, Evan, and you tell me if you're buying this or not, because I'm curious what you think of this. You're a little more analytically brained than I am. I like to think in the abstract. The Patriots, for the most part in their dynasty, especially this Dynasty 2.0, the first 2.5 months of the season are more or less an experiment. It's figuring out how all the pieces fit together, even if it's a lot of the same pieces, and seeing where they go together. And one of Bill Belichick's famous quotes, right? Real football starts after Thanksgiving. Right. He says that every year. The player says that every year. Well, here we are. Thanksgiving's on Thursday. I think in the last 2 games, the Patriots, and by extension us, found out what the identity of this team is. They are a defensive smash-mouth football team that's going to march the ball down the field on you on the offensive side with power running and short passes. Now, I can see why that would make people uncomfortable because it's so far removed from what the NFL is in 2019, and it's so far removed from the identity we're used to seeing with the Patriots, even though they present a slightly different identity every year. That being said, when they find their identity and they have that base game plan that they can go to that they know will work pretty much universally, it's very, very hard to stop them. That is what happened at the end of last season with that power run game, the 0 blitzes, all of it. They figured out their identity, they had their base, and then they were able to really lock in on their opponents and game plan. I think they have found that base. I think they have found that identity. It's going to allow them on both sides of the ball to play a lot more confidently, a lot more aggressively going forward. I think this is the sign we needed. This is where the switch gets flipped, is that they have found their identity offensively, defensively. If you like low-scoring football, sorry. This is what we're going to watch the rest of the season. This is what it is. I love it. I am happy. If you like, Chiefs-Rams Monday Night Football 2018, I don't know what to tell you. Go watch the NBA for the rest of the year. Go watch the Celtics because they're a lot of fun. But this is what the Patriots – I think this is what the Patriots are going to be. And now the question is, can that offense give them enough for them to ride this identity to a Super Bowl?
I think the difference is from last year to this year, and we talked about this actually last week, was right now, other than Edelman, who is making the big play? Because if you're going to play like this, right, and you're going to play games in the teens or the low 20s, and you're going to win football games on your defense, you have to have an opportunistic offense, right? You have to have an offense where a couple of drives a game, you are going to go on a drive, you're going to march down the field, and somebody in that realm is going to make a big play. Now, maybe it is N'Keal Harry, right? Maybe N'Keal Harry blossoms into that guy. Maybe Sanu can be enough of a foil to Edelman to be that guy. I think that's the only question mark with that entire strategy. Playing defense, winning special teams, playing the field position game, setting the offense up in good situations, turning the ball over defensively. That's all. You can win like that, right? You can definitely win like that. But the offense is going to have to be opportunistic, and the offense is going to have to be timely. And that's really defined the whole dynasty.
Have they not been the last 2 weeks? I know it hasn't been great, but they put the drive together when they needed to against Philly, and they put the drive together when they needed to against Dallas.
Right. And I think that more to your identity, to give it some analytic spin, I think that the one thing that they're doing a lot more now than they were at the beginning of the year is they're basically becoming a base 11 personnel team. They're running 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 running back on 80% of their snaps right now. And that fullback with Landon Roberts, which was actually pretty successful last week because Roberts played a decent game at fullback. That set is becoming a situational, close the game out, goal line, bring the 6th offensive lineman in, or maybe in a situation like early yesterday or on Sunday, excuse me, when it's absolutely monsooning out and you can't throw the football as effectively and you got to rely on the run. But they've become a 3 wide receiver team, and they're going to spread the field a little bit more than I think that people were used to last year. The fullback and the I formation and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that we're going to see Elandon Roberts all of a sudden playing 30 snaps a game at fullback. I think it's really going to be something that's more of a supplement, more of a situational basis. Now, that being said, they have, in my opinion, once they're fully healthy, they have the horses at wide receiver and running back to be an 11 personnel team, right? They have enough receiver depth, and they have
real quick.
Plenty of
I think you're going to get to it. I think you're about to get to this, but I want to ask you this question. I want to steer you in this direction. How much does it help them to lean on that set when you have N'Keal Harry, who can essentially be a de facto tight end in the way he plays, at least in the passing game?
Yeah, it definitely helps. He's played a little bit in the slot. He hasn't played a ton in the slot. He's been mostly outside. I think one thing that it does help, though, and maybe the 11 personnel thing is more about this than it is about anything else. But when you have a bunch of young and new players, when you stick to one personnel grouping, you can start to do a whole lot more in that one personnel grouping. Because when you start changing up groupings and alignments and who's coming in and who's coming out and stuff like that, you need to have experienced players that know the scheme and know the system inside and out to really be able to do what the Patriots have done in the past, where they run 5 or 6 different personnel groupings out there like it's hockey lines, right? You can't really do that when you have rookies playing, when you have a guy like Sanu playing who's been here for a month. So the 11 personnel thing and simplifying it to that point to where we're going to play 80% of our snaps out of one grouping, that helps a lot of the inexperienced guys out a ton. And that's really simplifies it into that respect of we know where we're going to be most of the time, right? If you're N'Keal Harry, you're playing the X and you're mostly going to be on the boundary. Edelman, you're mostly going to be in the slot. That your roles a little bit more than when you go through a bunch of different groupings. So I think that it helps with the inexperience. I think that it helps in the fact that that's been by far their most efficient grouping this year, especially in the passing game. So I think it's a good thing that they're becoming more of that, because it's going to help them in the long run to get really, really good at that, because the kind of the shuffling and the being kind of, like a surprise to teams, being unpredictable, that's the word I'm looking for, that hasn't worked as much as going 11 and running with some tempo also. The hurry up stuff has really, really worked when they've gone to it. So I think that they're keeping that in their back pocket as well.
Yeah, the hurry up's an interesting point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually asked you this during the game. When they needed it against Baltimore, they went to it, and it worked to an extent. They obviously didn't win the game, but they had success on offense when they went to it. The one drive against Philly they used, it was their one touchdown drive. They needed it. I was a little surprised they didn't break it out against Dallas late in the game, but they did have a one-score lead. Yeah, how much of that do you think? I guess, is that something that will have a high success rate when they use it, or is it just the surprise of it early on? And do you like the fact that they're kind of keeping it under wraps for now, even if it means limiting the offensive output at this point?
Yeah, I think some of the reason why they didn't use it against Dallas was because they had 2 rookie receivers out there. And if you're going to run no huddle, you really need to know the offense, right? You need to be able to adjust on the fly.
Right.
The other reason is because Isaiah Wynn and Marcus Cannon were, first game back for Wynn.
Sure.
Marcus Cannon's really under the weather. So I think that going tempo with those 2 guys was going to be a little bit difficult with conditioning and just with health. But I think overall, the idea of tempo as a scheme, as a system, Chip Kelly, right? That's gone. Right, that doesn't work in the NFL. We figured that out. It worked for a while. It was a fad, right? It worked for a while, then it went out of style.
So you are telling me that there are certain things that in the NFL that people claim work, but are really just fads that the league figures out.
Right. The other issue with the Chip Kelly teams that ended up really coming back to haunt them at this level, at the NFL level, was time of possession. I'm not a big time of possession guy, but the Eagles under Chip Kelly were last in time of possession every single year, and that defense was on the field for
because they were all 3 and outs, because Chip Kelly just didn't. He knew to go tempo, but he didn't know what to do in tempo. He's just like, all right, run a bunch of plays. Coach, what plays should we run? I said run a bunch of plays. Like, that was Chip Kelly in the NFL.
or just running mesh concepts over and over again. But they ran 50% no huddle against Baltimore. They ran that one drive no huddle against Philadelphia. I think anything over 50%, I think, would be pushing it. I think that the game plan in Baltimore was to go a lot no huddle. They knew that going in. That was part of the plan. And I think that that's about as much of it as you're going to see in the game. Unless they really like it, I just don't. I don't see it being a thing where they go the entire game no huddle and they really go gas and go tempo for an entire game. I just don't know if that's necessarily just by going tempo, you're not going to fix all the ills, right? The receivers are not going to all of a sudden just get wide open because you're going tempo the entire game. It's just
but to me, the running the no tempo is more about the running game than the passing game. To me, when they were going no tempo, they were up the middle, picking up 5-6 yards of carry.
Yeah, well, and they were also spreading teams out. I think that's the other thing with the running game that might be more important is that when you do play out of 3 wide receiver sets with just one back in the backfield, you're spreading the defense. So you're going up against a lot more 6-man boxes, 7-man boxes, favorable situations where the offense has the advantage to run the football. So you're running it more out of like a spread look, but it's definitely easier to run the football in those boxes when you don't have the horses on the offensive line to move people like they did last year, or at tight end or fullback for that matter too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I said before. The Patriots are it's figuring out each year how to win games with your personnel. And this year, I think people are just freaked out that the identity is so far.
Well, it's just really far also from like what Baltimore's doing and what Kansas City's doing and what all these other high-powered offenses in the league, Dallas, all these teams are airing it out. Right, they're throwing the ball down the field in those places. Yeah, Baltimore is a big part of their offense, is certainly the running game. But when Lamar Jackson throws the ball, he's throwing it, he's chucking it, right? And to go with a 5-yard passing game, and have Brady average 6.5 yards per attempt, and to do all that kind of stuff, it's just so different from what these other teams are doing.
But I will say that. To anybody who wants to panic about the identity and say it's 2019, you can't win games with defense. First of all, you saw your team win a championship with defense 10 months ago. You did. Okay. Yeah. Second of all, defense doesn't, what did I say? Offense doesn't travel. Is that the saying, right? Offense doesn't travel. This is important at least until you get to the end of January. The Super Bowl is another story. But defense doesn't freeze. Defense can only be helped by cold weather and inclement conditions. Offense can really only be hurt by it unless you're a ground and pound down the throat offense.
Right.
So, I've been saying it for days. I said it a couple times on the show. The Patriots have a built-in advantage playing in New England. And I think this year, more than any other year, they're going to embrace that. I love it. I personally love it. I get why a lot of people hate it.
Belichick loves it. I think Bill Belichick.
I know Bill Belichick loves it because it's old school.
Defense, special teams, win field position, win in the kicking game, get some blocks, get some turnovers. Before we move on and wrap this up, I wanted to throw one more thing out there at you.
Well, I was just going to ask if you had anything else you wanted to get to before we finish. So
yeah, I want to take you back to 2010 for a second and Gronk's rookie year. Okay, remember Gronk's rookie year? He only had 542 receiving yards.
Sure.
But he had 10 touchdowns.
Yes.
9 of those touchdowns, he had 546 receiving, 10 touchdowns. 9 of those touchdowns came in the red zone. Okay, so Gronk's rookie season, N'Keal Harry's rookie season.
I mean, that's what I said. He's here for the red zone. Hang on, I got to look something up now. Keep talking, because now I got to look up. I got to expand on that number.
I wrote this today in my film review that everybody should read on the website. All I need out of N'Keal Harry is for him to finish drives. Right. They don't need him to start drives. They don't need him to extend drives. They need him to finish drives. That's exactly what Gronk was. The Patriots brought Gronk along slowly. Obviously, I'm not predicting that N'Keal Harry is going to have Gronk's 2011 season next year in his second year, right? But in Gronk's first year, the one thing that translated automatically about his game was the red zone. his ability to box guys out with his size and his freakish athleticism to win inside the 20. I think N'Keal Harry can be that same player for them. That's my big take here.
I mean, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Just to pound that point home there, he's not here to be a 100-catch receiver. Right. He's not here to be a 1,000-yard receiver. He is here to be early on, you say, right, I'd say early on 10 to 15 touchdowns, and you hope that he's, if he really hits his peak in his prime, a guy who's pushing 18 touchdowns a season, I think is
that would be a lot.
I'd say the ceiling. I would say that's the ceiling for him in his prime.
This year,
am I off base there?
I would like him to, I think 18's a lot. Gronk never.
I'm not saying. I'm saying once he really hits his prime and figures this thing out, he's been here for a couple years.
I think he can be a double-digit touchdown guy, easily. With the skill set he has.
To add to your Gronk stat, right? 10 touchdowns his rookie year, 9 in the red zone.
Right.
4 of the 10 touchdowns, so almost half, came after Thanksgiving.
Oh, there you go.
So he really ramped it up later in the year. So, it's trickier for N'Keal Harry because Gronk, actually, his rookie year, believe it or not, was one of the few years he played 16 games. He played every game. But it's a little trickier for N'Keal Harry because this was kind of week 2 for him. It was week 11, but it was also week 2. But, here we go. Like, he's only going to get more comfortable in the offense. Brady's only going to get more comfortable with him. His role's only going to grow. He's only going to have more opportunities. So, and that goes, again, I think the offense figures it out because there is clear room for growth there. We now see the offense looked like a mess for a couple weeks there. You didn't going to see how it was going to work. It's not working yet, but you can see how. You can see through the fog sort of what's setting up on the other side. So,
I think the one worrisome thing quickly, it does feel like Isaiah Wynn's kind of a house of cards. Like if you pull the Jenga piece of Isaiah Wynn out of the game of Jenga, I think the whole thing might come crashing down. I'm not saying it's definitely going to come crashing down.
That's fair. But you could say that about a couple of guys. I know he's injury prone, but I don't think that's just him.
No, I mean certainly not just him. Obviously Tom Brady comes out of the Jenga game.
I meant like Shaq Mason, but okay. If you want to go.
I don't think that I think that Isaiah Wynn, because of what they have at left tackle in Newhouse, because of how much better he is than Newhouse, and because of really also his functional athleticism, he's just starting at a ground level. He's starting at a level on the elevator that Newhouse could never reach in terms of athleticism. And
his basement is higher than Newhouse's ceiling.
Right, and just in terms of what they can do within the scheme with him at left tackle, the running plays, the screen plays, the allowing him to pass block one-on-one on the backside, all that kind of stuff. You just can't do it with Newhouse. So schematically, there's just so much that goes into that position. So really, all this kind of identity, all the seeds being planted, all the development we're talking about tonight, it's really dependent a lot on his health. And that stinks because I hate just like chalking it up to one player like that isn't a quarterback, but it really is true.
But it's the left tackle.
Yeah.
So, it's not like you're chalking it up. No disrespect to James Devlin. It's not like you're chalking it up to the fullback. I know that's a hot button issue for you.
Sore subject.
You got anything else?
That's it.
You got anything else? What are you eating for Thanksgiving? What's on your plate?
I guess turkey, like it has to be, right? That's
I forgot you had this whole.
Everybody's like, oh yeah, gotta be turkey. Listen, so we're having turkey. I'd much rather a steak or some prime rib or something like that. But it's Thanksgiving, gotta do tradition, gotta have turkey.
Turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, drowned it in gravy, feed it to me through a straw. That's where I'm at. That's
pretty much.
Let's close with this. I just did this with Trags. We just recorded Pat's beat. That'll drop Wednesday morning. Give me his 3 turkeys of the NFL season. Let me see if I can remember his off the top of my head. It was the NFL refs.
Yeah, I knew that was one of them.
The NFL refs, specifically with the pass interference replays, Myles Garrett and Zach Taylor were his 3 turkeys.
Well, those are such Trags answers, man.
Mine were Sean McVay,
Jameis
Winston, and Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Give me your 3 turkeys of the NFL season.
I'd go AB, Myles Garrett, Sean McVay.
You gotta pick 3 different ones. You just mixed mine and his.
that's what it is. That's the right
Pick
answer.
3 different people. Come on, Evan. Have some fun for one time in your life.
But that's the right. I like to be right, and that's the right answer.
There's more than 6 turkeys in the NFL.
Man, you're really the whole Cleveland Browns organization.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, I'll go everybody in Cleveland, everybody in Washington. What a joke that's been.
So you're just gonna list teams here. I love it.
Yeah, everybody in Washington.
Okay.
Just what a dumpster that has been. And Jared Goff.
All right, fair enough. I mean, he was bad. He was bad last night.
Jared Goff probably shouldn't be the quarterback for the Rams next year. That's another take that I can just ditch. And
they got a lot of money invested in him, so it's not that simple. Yeah. You're not going to go with the running backs matter crowd as a turkey?
They've had a rough year, I would say, in some respects. I wouldn't say they've had a rough year all around. I mean, I think the running backs don't matter crowd will always have Saquon Barkley.
And Christian McCaffrey. I was thinking about to say, I think Christian McCaffrey's now the poster child.
Yeah, well, Christian McCaffrey's the best running back in the league, and the Panthers are not going to make the playoffs, so that's pretty fair.
But how many wins do the Panthers have without Christian McCaffrey?
The running backs don't matter crew would say not that many.
I'm asking you.
I don't even know their record. What's their record?
I'll look it up. I think they have like 6 wins.
You're putting me on the spot.
I know I am. Called the conversation.
I think McCaffrey's worth 2 wins.
That's it?
Yeah.
The Carolina Panthers have they're 5-6.
The only reason why I gave him 2 wins is because he's such a good pass catcher.
He's more than just a running back. All right, well, we're totally off the track here. So that will do it for Patriots leftovers this week. We'll have another one next week, either Monday or Tuesday. I don't know. It'll be tricky with the night game in Houston. That's going to be a heck of a game. So we'll have you covered leading up to that one from Gillette. We got coverage tomorrow. We got coverage Friday. No coverage Thursday. Everybody enjoy the holiday. It's a good one. So, spend with your family, watch a lot of football, eat a lot, drink a lot, whatever you want to do, go for a hike, all of it. Good luck to
That's going to be a good game.
Good luck to everybody in their backyard bowls. What position you play? Let's close it. What position you play when you guys go play in the backyard?
Oh, slot receiver. That's what I played growing up.
Okay.
Wes Welker.
I actually have a nickname. They call me the liability. So
I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
All right. I
think your athleticism.
That'll do it for this edition of Leftovers, brought to you by betonline.ag. Visit their website. Use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% welcome bonus. For Evan Lazar, I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for checking this out, this edition of Patriots Leftovers. We'll talk to you after the next one.